name's Lisa, and this is my little studio here in Fergus called Le Fil Studio. And this is a little business that myself and my best friend started where we repurpose a lot of vintage textiles and create new pieces from those textiles in order to just embrace the slow fashion movement, create everything by hand in-house. And the other thing that we really like to do is crochet and knit. So we've kind of turned our favorite hobbies into a little bit of a business. And one thing we really like doing as well is shopping for yarn. So in today's video, we are going to be going to one of my new favorite yarn stores now. The first time going was today, and it's called the Knitting Loft, and it's in Toronto. And here in Canada, we've got a lot of great yarn stores, and we have a lot of great local yarn stores around the Fergus area where I live. The Knitting Loft is about an hour, 20 minutes from where I live. And one reason for visiting today was because they carry Knitting for Olive. And I've been super interested in Knitting for Olive as a company ever since hearing more about their yarn and also their commitment to sustainability, the environment, animal welfare, and human welfare. And it's just everything that they stand for is really what we also stand for here at Le Fil Studio. So with that in mind, I had a birthday coming up, and what I wanted for my birthday was to take my two best friends to the Knitting Loft, and we had such a wonderful time today. We just got back, and I have a little bit of a haul to show you guys later in the video. And it was just such a lovely experience going to the store. We got to meet the owner. She was so wonderful in welcoming us. I've never seen so much beautiful yarn in one store in my life. It was a little bit overwhelming. I think we spent several hours there. I want to say like 3 to 4 hours. And honestly, I could just live in that store. It was so amazing. I can't believe the selection of beautiful yarns they had. So I definitely got my Knitting for Olive yarns that I went for, but I also got a few surprises in here as well that I'm really excited to share. And I know when I watch videos, I really like seeing people's travel vlogs, and I like seeing their shopping experiences in different shops. So I thought I would bring that to you guys as well. So let's check out a little bit of the Knitting Loft. I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons for visiting the Knitting Loft was to go in for the Knitting for Olive yarn. So I recently purchased the Knitting for Olive book, and it contains 20 gorgeous, and I'm just reading the back here, accessible knitting patterns for women. And as a knitter, I am somewhat new to knitting. I have a bit more of a crochet background. My friend who I do the business with, she has been knitting for well over 20 years, possibly longer. So she's been a great resource in helping me on my knitting journey. But I really like the idea with this book, partially as a somewhat new knitter. I love the idea that I can get these beautiful patterns, and then they tell me exactly what yarn to use in exactly what quantity for my size, and it just kind of takes the guesswork out of it. Some of the patterns that I've created over the last little while, some have been great patterns, some not so great, or sometimes I've messed up and chosen the wrong yarns, or I've messed up my gauge, or maybe I selected the wrong needle size, right? I've made those little mistakes that resulted in nothing super disastrous, but definitely some sweaters that have fit just a little bit not quite what I anticipated, right? Just by a little bit. So I really like that this takes the guesswork out of it. And so maybe in another video, if you're interested, I could talk more about the Knitting for Olive book. The first part of the book definitely talks about the origins of their company, which I found really interesting. And then the many pages of the book after that are the patterns. Beautiful photography too. I won't get too much into the book, but this is one of the reasons for the visit to the Knitting Loft today. So let's get into looking at this beautiful yarn. I came away with, they gave me one of their bags, which are really nice tote bags. And should we start with, actually I'll start with the littlest purchase first. Sorry, just to keep you in suspense. This is kind of a funny little impulse buy. You know when you're at the front counter and you're looking around in a store and you just kind of grab something at the last minute? That was this for me. I've been thinking about how I would love to have something like this because, again, as a fairly new knitter, I make a lot of mistakes and I've had to rip out a lot of rows of stitches. So to have a lifeline built into my knitting, I think is a really good idea. Just when you're switching to a different part of the pattern that maybe you want to make sure, absolutely sure, that you don't mess things up in case you have to stitch rip or whatever. But I got this little stitch holder. I think it's also good because I have my, so what I use for knitting is I use my ChowGoo complete set, and it has all of their needles in here and they're interchangeables. So a couple are missing because these are projects I'm working on right now, but they're the little interchangeable needles. And this is the 4-inch set. And I just decided I'm gonna get this one set. I'm gonna try to be really minimalist about it. I don't want like a million different needles from different companies. So that being said, if I wanna put work on hold and then come back to it later, but I need that needle size for another project, this is also something that'll help me with that. So this stitch holder is made by Clover. It's kind of cute. It has a little green and pink stopper on it. I've been using yarn, which works too, but I think this will be just a little bit nicer. It has a little bit of a needle built in at the end there. So that's cool. So I have a sock knitting class that I'm taking coming up at my local yarn store here in Fergus, which is called String Theory Yarn Shop. It's a beautiful store. It's a wonderful community here in Fergus, Ontario. And the sock class that I'll be taking, it actually uses worsted weight, which is probably not super typical for sock making. So I wanted to find a really beautiful worsted weight yarn. So this is a merino, and it actually is by the Knitting Loft. So the Knitting Loft has its own branding of yarn. And this is a beautiful, like, looks like hand-dyed merino. I wish you guys could feel it. It feels amazing. It's basically a cream color, and then it's got these little like candy flecks of blue and pink in it. So I wanted to keep something in the creams because my favorite types of socks, or my favorite pairs of socks that I wear right now, tend to be cream colored. And then I just wanted a little speckle of fun in it. So this one is called Candy Floss, and it's by the Knitting Loft, and it feels wonderful. So I'll definitely show you guys the socks that I make with it after I've taken that class. Another little selection that I got in hand-dyed yarn is this brand here, and this is by La Bien Aimée, or Ami. This is a French brand. It says it's hand-dyed in Paris, and it is a merino Aran weight, and the color is rose quartz. And I don't know if you can see on camera, but it is probably like one of the most beautiful skeins of yarn I've ever seen in my life. It's kind of got these cream tones with some browns and pale pinks, like definitely rose quartz mixed in. And then it's got some mustard color, some blue flecks, some little hot pink flecks. It's really interesting. So I'm kind of interested to see how this will knit up. And I am making the bougiest little dog sweater with this yarn. So I have a tiny Yorkie named Nano. He's 5 pounds, maybe a little under 5 pounds, so he's little. So this will easily make him a little sweater. And I have a pattern that I found that has a little hoodie too. So I'm gonna make him a cute little sweater out of this yarn. So that's the plan. Okay, so that one was exciting. Next, we're gonna get to knitting for Olive. So how about I do my smallest amount first? So we have this. Hopefully I'm getting them all here. This and this. Okay, so in the book here, if I can find it, I am going to knit the olive vest, which looks like this. It's beautiful. Simple, classic little vest. I really like how they've styled it here with the white shirt underneath and the jeans. And I do like the brown they have in the picture, but I did choose a little bit of a different color when I was in the store. The colors are all so beautiful for knitting for Olive. It was actually really hard to decide. One thing you guys are gonna see is that I really like these tones. So you're gonna see a lot of like pinks and like slightly brown and cream tones. So it seems like it should hopefully be a pretty easy knit. And for my size, it recommends 2 balls of their merino this is the color rose clay, and 3 balls of their soft silk mohair, also in the color rose clay. So yeah, this one is going to be a little vest. So that's exciting. And it's a really beautiful color. I don't know what it's reading like on camera, but it's a neutral. It definitely, the merino I would say looks a little bit more brown, and then the silk mohair, even though it's the same color, has a tiny bit more like lightness or pink to it. So I think it'll be like a warm pinky brown in the end. So I'm excited about that. The other project that was a last minute change, so I do this all the time. Sometimes I go to a yarn store, actually most times I go to a yarn store and I don't have a plan. I just buy yarn because I love it. And that can work sometimes, but sometimes I end up without a plan, and then I don't end up buying the right thing or the right quantities, and I have to go back, and I'm not good at planning. Unlike my best friend who I went with, who is really good at planning. And so we kind of help balance each other out that way. But anyway, I went in with a bit of a plan, but then in true me style, I ended up changing my plan. So I completely changed to something I didn't think I was gonna knit, which is the Darling wrap. I just think it maybe is a little bit of a different challenge for me. This will be my more challenging one in the book, and there's definitely way more challenging ones in this book, but this has a bit of a rib to it. It's got a tie. It's kind of a crossover wrap type of sweater. It's a bit cropped. I think it's really pretty. And so for this one, I am going to do it in probably my favorite color for knitting for Olive is this color. This is soft rose. So this is the silk mohair. And in my size, I think I required 4 balls of silk mohair. And this is the same color, soft rose, in the merino. And I believe it also calls for 4. So that's for the wrap sweater. And then the final thing that I got, final bit of yarn I got from Knitting for Olive, was this classic cream colored, this one's called Cloud. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful cream colored. And if you're familiar with the brand, you know that they have many different shades of white, which is really cool because you can pick the exact shade that you want. And the display was right near a window in the store, so I could kind of see that subtle variation between the tones. And as an artist, I absolutely love that because I got to choose a color that I think is hopefully complementary to my skin tone, but also just that I enjoy working with. So this one here, I got the most quantity for, I think, or maybe it's the same. It might be the same as the pink. So four merinos and then 4 of also the cloud color in the silk mohair. So 4 of those. And these feel like a dream. I've never knit with them before. I've knit with a lot of merino and some mohair before. I only have had a few projects where I've held 2 strands together of the mohair and the merino. And those projects I have really liked the kind of depth and definition that it gives. So I really kind of committed to that for this. And I think that's what Knitting for Olive is kind of known for, is a lot of their patterns. Of course, the yarns are interchangeable. You can choose different combinations to get the right weight that you need. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about these projects. I didn't mention which one this is for. This is also a little bit of a more challenging project for me. And this one, I actually was debating between the puff tee, which is really gorgeous, or I just kind of thought, if I'm gonna do this, I might as well do something that's long sleeve, because I tend to be somebody who gets cold easily in the winter, and so maybe I wouldn't want to just wear a short sleeve. Oh, here it is, finally, sorry. The Carl Johannes sweater, which I think also, I don't know, it might be a little bit of a challenge for me. This one here. I just think it's really, really pretty. All their colors are so pretty. It looks really beautiful in this blue color too. So it's got a bit of a turtleneck. I like that it's got the big long cuff sleeves. It's a little bit classic at the same time. And yeah, it also required in my size 4 balls of the merino and 4 balls of the soft silk mohair. So this one's probably going to be the more challenging one, I'm going to guess, of the 3, but none of them are, I think, too far out of my comfort range. I think that they'll help me kind of grow as a knitter, so I'm excited about that. And then the last thing is the owner of the Knitting Loft was so sweet to us, and I don't know why, but she offered us a sample to pick out any one of her her fingering weight yarns, and this is I think it's called the Peppy line, and this color here is called Baby Doll, and this is a superwash merino single ply. It's a fingering weight, and I had a hard time picking because this was a surprise, and it was super lovely. I don't even think she knew it was my birthday, but she just completely made my day by offering me this beautiful skein. And so I chose the one that just kind of sang to me. Of course, it's in a lot of the tones that I have here already. But I tried to be a little bit wild. There were a lot of pinks that were a lot more, I guess, less color variation in them, a lot more muted, that were really gorgeous. But I chose the one that had a lot of like little fluorescent pops, lots of color pops, even a bit of orange in here, a bit of purple, a tiny bit of like a green that's almost like a pea green mixed in there. I just think it's really, really cool. So I'm excited to wind this up into my little cake and then start knitting with it. And I'm not 100% sure what I'm gonna do with it yet. I might make socks, which would be the obvious thing to do, or maybe a nice little scarf or something like that. I'm not sure yet. But I just want to say thank you to the Knitting Loft. What a great surprise this was. And I don't know, I love all of this, but this might be almost one of my favorites of the day, maybe because it was such a surprise. So that's really beautiful. So that's what I got. So I'm gonna have to show you as I work these projects what I end up doing with them all. I guess I kind of know, I have this plan here, but I'll show you the progress along the way. So if you have any questions about anything in this video, I would love to hear your question. Hopefully I can answer it for you. I hope you enjoyed our little visit to the Knitting Loft. And if there's anything that you'd like to see in an upcoming video, if there's tutorials that you're interested in, or maybe a little tour around the studio, just let me know in the comments, okay? Thanks so much for watching today. Bye, have a great day.